Sometimes I'll be like, I'll see questions and then I'm like, crazy.
Yeah, and so did Kevin. I saw a post.
Good. There we go. All set. Awesome. Well, hi there, everyone. Thank you very much for coming out to the Entrepreneurship Speaker Series. My name is O'Shea Justin, and I'll be asking questions today. And I guess the big thing I want to do is, first off, thank you all for being here. So the Entrepreneurship Speaker Series is an opportunity for budding entrepreneurs, people who might have that idea, they're looking to see what it takes to get started, hear from other people who have gone through that experience. So that's what we aim here to do, and it's put on and facilitated by Rolf and Marg Hougen, who make it possible. And so every month we have a different entrepreneur who shares their story, and so feel free to come back out and tell your friends. It's always interesting, and it's an opportunity for you to also get to ask questions. So as far as the layout of the evening will go, I'll spend the first kind of 15 minutes asking some questions, and then it'll be up to you to ask whatever questions you want as well. And we are going to be taking some pictures as well, so for social media and stuff like that. If you don't want your picture taken, that's totally okay. You can just let Victoria know in the back, and then she won't use your pictures. And then that's pretty much it. And so now we can jump to the important part, the person that you all came here to see, Laura Daly from Cultured Fine Cheese. Let's give her a round of applause. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And so to start off, can you give us a bit of your background and sort of what you used to do and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, there are a few people in the audience that will know from working together, not the other side of the story, but for years I worked in retail, kind of popped from one job to the next, lots of small businesses, kind of wondered if my life was going to amount to anything with the endless retail gigs. And then I came up to the Yukon land of opportunity and had some great opportunities here. And then I ended up getting my first government job, and I worked in corrections for several years, and which was fantastic because I mean it's a nice steady paycheck and much better pay than the retail gigs. But it also kind of gave me an opportunity to start putting some away each month and creating this little nest egg, knowing that there was something else I wanted to do, but not exactly sure what that looked like at the time, but that at least there would be a little bit of funding there to help facilitate whatever it was. So I figured it out. Yes. Yeah.
And so you're working correctly, you're starting to put stuff away, and then we all know what the end result is now, but I guess how did the idea of culture sort of first come about and start to percolate in your mind?
Well, knowing that I wanted to do something entrepreneurial, my partner, raise a hand, love. We would just be hashing out ideas over time, just trying to determine the viability of these different ideas. And then cheese was one of those ideas. And I think we were quick with many ideas we had. We were quick to kind of just very quickly write it off and go, okay, no, I don't think that's going to work, or that's going to be too labor intensive. Little did we know. And then cheese we kind of paused on that one, and it seemed right away like something that, although you could get cheese in the territory, that wasn't an issue, but just the approach to it was something that hadn't been done here yet. And the exciting thing, I think, for anybody thinking business is it doesn't necessarily have to be a brand new idea, but an idea that's new to our communities is quite exciting. So it just seemed often when I would be heading out or when friends would be leaving the territory, we were bringing lots of food stuff home. So I'm like, always taking that extra suitcase and bringing stuff home, and cheese getting lost in transit and whatnot. So it seemed like something that, talking to friends, close friends about the idea and stuff too, that there was a lot of interest and buy-in. So, I spent 3 days kind of assessing that, and then gave my notice of my government job. I thought, what have I done? And yes, and there was a series of other hurdles in there before opening.
Yeah, so maybe in like the first couple of days, what were some of the things that you were looking at to see if it was maybe something more than just another idea?
Well, again, I guess just in that safe little zone of friends, kind of discussing if that made sense, or we were totally crazy to think of doing that. And I think some, although good friends, did think we might be a little bit crazy. But yeah, just kind of paying more attention to what was out there and how many people were actually looking for certain items that were, not easily accessible. They're bringing things back with them and traveling and kind of thinking, wait a sec, there seems to be a little gap or a little niche that could be filled. And, I mean, really, it was just a lot of trust and chance as well, and just kind of going with a gut feeling, and yeah, the gut rumbles.
And you kind of have almost the opposite problem where some people will think of an idea and they kind of let it percolate. But you went fairly quick at it. I guess, why did you want to go 100%?
It's all his fault. I think honestly, if I had waited as long as I would be comfortable to do something like that, there would not be cultured flying cheese yet, because I would wait till I knew everything and I had everything lined up and just felt like it was totally perfect. But really, like, I think that realistically, it's never going to be that way from the get-go. And with a lot of great encouragement from my partner and having to, I think it was like the 2 days before opening or the night before opening where I was convincing him it was just a really good idea that we would open up the shop, because we said we would, and we would just literally just give out cheese to everybody who came in, and eventually we ran out of cheese. We just boarded the shop up and
we did it.
And so yeah, it's all done.
Yeah, I guess as far as the space, so you have the idea, you're now going to pursue it. You got to start thinking about space and product and stuff like that. What were some of the things that you were looking for there, or some of the things that you were thinking as you were essentially getting cheese ready to sell to people in Whitehorse?
I think one of the things that made us move a little faster was just that little, what they call, and it's no longer existent, it's going to be an elevator soon, but that little incubator space in Horwoods Mall. And I'd seen that many times. There were many little incarnations of businesses in there, but when I saw that was available, I thought, God, this is going to happen faster than I wanted. But I wanted that space, and I really wanted to be part of a bigger community of stores. One of the things I was very clear on, I didn't want to have a single door that you had to open to come into just one space. I wanted it to be just kind of that sense of community. And so with that little space, it felt like it was just nicely nestled in, and I mean that little space had also helped kind of facilitate dreams prior to ours, right? With businesses starting quite small and then growing into bigger spaces in the mall. So yeah, I reached out, contacted the building manager, and then sat down, had a meeting, and things just kind of were like, all right, we just agreed to that space. Okay, I better get going. And then reaching out at that point, just reaching out to cold calling, a lot of cold calling, a lot of Excel spreadsheets, a lot of notes, and just starting to reach out to cheese suppliers. And I did a trip down south to Calgary and met with a few different people in the cheese industry. Reached out to people that were doing this elsewhere and just introduced myself and said, hey, any advice for somebody new? And now I'm like, oh God, I'm so sorry. That's such a wide open question. But I think as I got more information and everything too, I was able to be a bit more specific in some of the questions I had. And they all eventually get answered when the rubber hits the road.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was. And there was a lot of procrastination in there too, but not to the point that we didn't have cheese on opening day. So.
Well, I guess when you're picking your products too, you're trying to think what will people like, because you want to make a good first impression. So as far as maybe your background in cheese, what were some of the things that you were looking for? What were some of the things you were curious to maybe try?
Yeah, I'd always enjoyed pretty much any cheese I'd ever had an opportunity to try. A lot, I think a lot of the time too, was just looking at these lists and not knowing everything about cheese, and I still don't know everything about cheese. I know a lot more than when I started, but just looking at page after page and names of cheese, and thank goodness for Google and all the great books and resources that I have, but it was a lot of reading and determining what we wanted to try, but ultimately I think just having the cases full with a variety of cheeses, and then it's really the customers that kind of helped shape what we have, because you want to provide what people want. And so in kind of the evolution of the shop has been, we had those cases full with everything that was of interest to me at that point that I could get my hands on, but now we've got a lot of things that we actually owe thanks to various customers by bringing it to our attention too. So but yeah, it was like, I look back and think, God, the cases were barren. Like, how did we open with so little cheese? And literally a day later, we were like, Air North, can you fly? Get this on the plane? And it went so quickly. I had no idea how fast we turn things over.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to sit on a lot of perishable inventory either, because that's scary. But yeah, literally, it was the next day, and I was like having one of my suppliers get cheese on a plane and get it up here as fast as they can.
And yeah, let's talk about that day one, because the reception was really great, right? Like, what was that like? You open up the doors and
It was terrifying, but at the same time, it was so incredible that there were so many people there for opening day, so many people excited, and as much as I was terrified, it was almost just like, you just had to act now. I mean, you had people waiting, people to look after, and you just, I mean, the only way it's going to get more comfortable is just doing it. But boy, we look back on those early days, and we laugh sometimes about it was so intense, and yet there were certain things that just came naturally too, I think, and there were huge learning curves, and people were super kind, patient, interested. But yeah, it would have been funny to have like a little camera just filming us for a couple of hours so we could look back on it and go, gosh, we've come a long way.
What do you think some of the differences, let's say you did have that camera there, what do you think some of the differences would be between, you know, Laura selling cheese then and Laura selling cheese now?
Well, I think I'm super comfortable in my space now. It was, I mean, we designed the space and everything, but you don't necessarily know exactly how efficient that space is going to be until you start fully doing a full day in there and being in it. And so I think just, although we did very well, I have to say, like there weren't a lot of things that I would have changed after having had a chance to work in it. We did a lot of floor plans and a lot of like literally measuring things out, taping things off on the floor in our house, figuring out, you know, how much room there'd be to move. We only had so much room anyway with that space, but yeah, I think, and also just the comfort in so many familiar faces now, right? It just really feels like it's an extension of my home, an extension of me. I think I don't feel quite, although, I mean, quite as vulnerable in that, right?
Yeah.
It feels more secure, more established, and so well supported that I think, yeah, I just feel good there.
And as far as that initial starting space, when you're getting things going, it was just the kind of refrigerator cooler thing on the front end there, and it was very kind of tiny. What were some of the logistical challenges with working within that smaller space as you were getting started?
It was definitely, I mean, when you're handling food, you can't be touching people to get past them. So it was a lot of communication. Be like, one person would be getting something out of the cooler, and the other person would just kind of have to stand and wait, so it didn't help with efficiency there. It was very tight to navigate. We had a much smaller cheese slicing area too. Not that you could fit more people in there to slice cheese. I think our max was 4 people at Christmas time, and it's like hard to imagine that we did that. But part of making the small space work too was modifying things and a lot of time put into each morning, literally like setting shop up, bringing everything out. We had all these little ways of closing everything up at night and having it all locked in there and secure, but then literally spending an hour and a half each day putting your display out, and an hour and a half at the end of each day bringing it back in again, which was a lot of extra time and energy. So yeah, I think I didn't fully realize how challenging that was, and having storage downstairs and storage around the corner, like just running to fridges here and there, just having it all in one space now is amazing. But it takes being in those situations, I think, to appreciate that as well. So.
Yeah.
But
one of the things that you mentioned when we were chatting initially is, you know, starting it up, and you made the same example today, kind of getting it open, giving all the cheese away, and closing up shop and saying, we did it, it worked. And one of the things you said that stuck with me is that trying is still a success. And I was wondering if you could maybe explore that a little bit and just walk through what your mindset was when you were opening it up. Kind of, it might go, it might not, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing, and probably the biggest reason why I was second guessing and wanting to kind of pull out or take what I thought was the easy route at that point was just such a huge fear of failing at something that you've really put a lot of yourself into and put yourself out there. I think that was the biggest concern, is that what if it doesn't work, and you know, you're boarding up the shop 6 months later, and it wasn't the money part of, like, you know, I felt like we talked about this, I felt, okay, we're young enough, we can still recover from the financial input or output, but I wasn't sure if I'd recover emotionally from it. I was just saying, like, I love this community so much, and if this doesn't work, I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to run and move somewhere else. But that's not, obviously, I mean, many people have tried various things that haven't worked out, and you gain so much from trying those things, and you apply what you learn, and so I mean, it was probably a series of failures that led me to this anyway. So
as you're working you know, in the space, you're looking for the next step, and you know that the business is doing well, and you're looking at expansion and stuff. What were some of the things that you were maybe looking for when you were looking for the new space? Once you knew it was kind of rolling, things were working, we can look at something different.
I think it was really very black and white when thinking about the bigger space. It was really like, for me, it was two things. Either I was closing the shop, or I was going to grow it 4 times the size, and there was no continuing to exist in the small space because, and some of you might know, but I burnt out really, really badly in 2018. I think just from juggling so much, pouring so much into the business. Like I said, the setup, the takedown each day, not being in a position to bring somebody on full-time or the hours that would help to alleviate some of the extra work that I was putting in. And it was just a really tough year to have to come to terms with. Either, okay, maybe this isn't working. And it's a big draw on my family as well. And it's, you know, the financial part of it, the emotional part of it, all the time that I've spent away and from our young son, that it seemed that might be the smartest route to go at that point. And everybody always was saying like, oh, it's the first 5 years that are the hardest, but I'm like, oh my God, we're like 3+ years into this, still so hard, I can't see the light. But, and then it was, I think that nagging feeling of if I don't give this business every opportunity to succeed, I'm going to regret that. And it felt like, even though, again, I sat down with my partner and our son was included in the conversation, and we talked about what does it look like if we decide to actually grow the business. What kind of a draw is that going to be on the family? How many nights is my husband going to spend at You Construct building stuff? and all those sort of things. But at the same time, that's, I think, what we needed to give it a chance to see if it could be more sustainable and ultimately have more balance with my family life and my work life, and just, you know, buying new refrigeration equipment, having everything in one space. It was like another big financial output to consider, but again, I think I'd much rather have debt and feel that I really gave it everything than to have not done that and constantly gone, oh, I wonder what it would have been like if we did, and, you know, oh God, you know, and maybe not be happy with what I chose to do afterwards.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful that I wasn't without a ton of support from my family and the community that I could do that.
Yeah, and I'd actually like to kind of expand on that a little bit. When you're having those discussions, right, a lot of entrepreneurs who are investing their time and energy into their businesses are putting everything in it and really want it to go, and it can often lead to, you know, that isolation, that burnout, stuff like that. When you're having those discussions, you know, with your family, what are some of the questions and things that you're wondering? Like, is it, at what point is there, what's the point of no return, I guess? How much time are you able to give to the business before it gets too much?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, in some ways I look back and go, but if I had given less, would it be where it is now? I might not have had like 6 months of total burnout, but I also look at that as like such a valuable lesson and actually how it's changed me and shaped the way I approach things in business. And I actually have a way better work-life balance than I ever had, because I never want to go to that place again. And so I think one of the things too that we looked at when we talked about growing the business, we gave ourselves a year. We said, okay, we're going to be in there for a solid year, and if we haven't got a family vacation, more family time, you know, all these different things that have been absent, then we could at that point go, okay, it's not achieving what we want. Like, even if it's, you know, generating more money and all those things, but if I'm not finding that I have that from that, then it's not a success for us and it's not working. So I guess, and I mean, it has. We had a vacation. We're going to go on another one this year. And, you know, I'm able to finally, I've struggled with a lot of guilt being a mom and a business owner, because I feel like so often the business is just like the immediate priority. Something just had to be done, and you just have to deal with it. You know, you have various scenarios that can happen that just require you to kind of drop what you're doing and deal with it. And like this past year and into this year, the first time I'm not juggling, like wrestling with that guilt as much. I'm like the mom that can actually show up and pick my kid up from school now and again and hang out, and those are all, I mean, yeah, just parts of that success and that it is more balanced.
On the burnout piece, you mentioned, you know, getting to that point in kind of that 6-month period. Can you talk about what it looked like at the end when you realized that you were burnt out and some of the symptoms that, looking back now, you can see?
Yes. I totally didn't see it coming, but of course in hindsight you're like, whoa, how did I not see the signs? I kid you not, like it was Christmas Eve, and Christmas is the most intense time at the shop for us. Like it is, and I'm not without any disrespect, like there's a bit of PTSD that I had to work through after, like the first Christmas we didn't even know what hit us. It was so crazy, and on a greater scale now, like Christmas has gotten busier each year, and I'm better equipped in how to deal with that. But Christmases, there was a lot of buildup, and so there were a couple of years there where I think that had quite an impact on me emotionally, and so there was that, preparing for Christmas, starting, you know, as early as June, getting orders in place, having staff trained, and just a series of unfortunate events that happened, just things that, you know, might have been quite small in the whole scheme of things, but you have a series of one thing that just kind of breaks you a little bit, and then another thing, and then another thing. It was just one of those series of mishaps with the business. There are various shipping, you know, issues, shortages, and so many. It's funny to let go of these things after a while, like all these difficult things that broke me, and I'm like, what were they again? But I think all of that, and then coming into Christmas season and just really trying to get through that and be on, and like I think it was like 300 hours I worked that December, and we always had this tradition of hosting a Christmas Eve dinner, and I think we had 20 people that evening at our house. We close up shop Christmas Eve. We have everybody over, and I said to Steph, I'm like, I feel amazing. I feel like I could run an ultra marathon. Adrenaline. I'm like, yeah. The next day, I fell asleep Christmas Day or Christmas night, I guess, and it was about 36 hours later I woke up. And I guess I'd shifted from like the bed back to the chair, back to the bed, back to the chair, but essentially I slept for 36 hours and was not functioning when I woke up. And I was surprised by it, because I'm like, where did that come from? I was just doing so well. I was just like on my feet for 14 hours, dealing with busyness at the shop and juggling all these different things. But yeah, I think it was just, looking back, there were so many factors that, and I was just running on fumes and survival mode. And as soon as, you know, it's like when you're working a lot and then you get a break, generally that's when you're going to get sick, or you realize exactly how exhausted you are. And I just hadn't had a break, and there we were, Christmas Day, the quietest, like just our little family, just really chill, and then it hit. So yeah, definitely didn't have the self-care plan in place. Didn't know how to put that in place. I think I didn't know exactly how much it threatened my health to work that hard and to put that much in. And so I think that, again, is just one of the really valuable things. And I mean, I try to be aware of that with other people in business, employees and stuff, like, don't burn out. No, just make sure you take a break and take care of yourself. But yeah, that answered the question.
It does, and it actually segues perfectly into my next one is, well, what does that self-care plan look like now? Like, what are some of the sports that you rely on taking advantage of them?
Yeah, I used to be quite into running, and I managed to, and I think that was part of it too, probably the burnout, actually bringing that up. Because it's hard to let go of your previous life when you're kind of starting something new, because you feel like you don't want to give up, you don't want to compromise. And it kind of felt like I wanted to keep running marathons and, you know, working 14 hours a day, and I still wanted to be a really great mom, and I wanted to, and it was just so many things, and it's like you can only do so much, and it's not healthy maybe to do that much. So you know, I did a series of like running at Chilkoot, running marathons that previous summer that led into
all those
the Christmas and burnout,
right?
Right, you know, it's a bit of a moving meditation, but there's like, you know, big extreme I can find. So getting back into running, but not Chilkoot Trail, but like the Millennium Trail. So that's part of the self-care plan. And honestly, as I was touching on, like having time with my family, you know, just being able to not be like the exhausted mom, frazzled at the end of the day. Like my child and my family deserve the best of me, and I feel like often at the end of the day they were just getting the last of me, like the last little bit of energy I had. So for me, that's totally self-care. Just being present with my family, having the energy, getting out, having some runs, having that social time with friends, and also just like what so many of you do with the cheese and everything, having social time with friends, right? Having dinners and just sharing and engaging and doing all of that without feeling like I'm making all these other compromises. So
yeah. And one of those things, I guess, too, is, you know, employees and having support at the shop and stuff like that. What was the point where you said it's time to hire staff? Maybe offload some of those activities?
The first day. how, I don't want to say high maintenance because that sounds negative, but how involved cheese is and the level of customer service that was really important to me at the shops. I think I quickly realized, as much as I romanticized that this was going to be my little day gig, it was just going to be me, and I'd handwrite receipts, and then we'd have like 20 minutes and half an hour between each customer. It's like, okay, this isn't realistic, and we're actually going to be a sustainable business. You need many more people coming in, and you have to be, able to take care of those people in a timely manner in a way that I want. So various friends cycled through and helped out and whatnot, and I think I'd hired like first employee within a couple of weeks. And just didn't know what I could commit to at that point. I was like, I don't know if this might die. So like taking short-term employees and then Dave, who many of you would know if you come into the shop, who's been with us for almost 4 years now. He started probably about 6 months into the business and was part-time, but like consistent. And I had that help in the afternoons. I wouldn't have to stress about people waiting so much, and then bringing on kind of another 1 or 2 day a week person, and that was huge. And then I remember just kind of going, okay, Dave, how much is it going to cost to get you to just work at one job? Because I'm ready, I think. Number crunching, working with the bookkeeper, and just really seeing like what can we do, right?
Yeah.
And now I mean it's amazing. We've got full-timer, 4 day a week, 2 day a week, 1 day a week person, and then me, who's actually not always full-time anymore, which is really cool.
And again, a perfect segue, because as far as it's your business, the standard that you want to give to customers. What's the rationale like in your mind, or the internal discussion in your mind when you're looking to trust someone else with that, and maybe go run some errands and leave the shop in someone else's hands?
That was a huge journey in itself. It's like taking our son to daycare the first day when I have to go back to work full time, and you're just like, no one can look after my child as well as I can. So definitely it takes a long time to build that trust. Now I'm much more relaxed in my approach to things. I think there's so much less on the line for me now, and I've had really positive experiences with employees, which just kind of lends you to trust that much more. But it comes back to burnout too, that if I'm going to do everything myself, because I think I can do it better, or it's got to be me, or what, for whatever reason. That's obviously it's not going to be better because I'm going to be burnt out, so it's going to suffer. Getting a little sidetracked.
One of the things that I think anyone going into the shop knows is how much customer service plays a role in that interaction. Like even myself, I know when I walk in, like you always greet me by my name, and you know what cheeses I like and stuff like that. And it makes me want to go back, even just to hang out in the store, which I don't think you'd appreciate.
It's not a sales tactic.
But stuff like that, where it does take a lot of that energy, and you really do go above and beyond. How do you teach that to staff, and how do you, pick staff that will keep living that out?
I guess, it's not my favorite part of having a business, is hiring and training, and you feel like there is so much invested in that one person that you bring on. They've got to jive with the team, they've got to, really be able to adopt kind of our approach, fit in with us, and I think I'll be going through this process again soon, because we're going to have somebody new starting with us, and it just again really makes you feel exposed and vulnerable, and almost like I get a bit insecure about like, I have so many specific processes and things that are important to me, and you just kind of feel like, okay, putting on the nag hat, here we go. Lots of repetition, lots of correction. But, oh God, help me out.
No, it's good. Because I was going to say the next thing is, as far as why is it important for you to also give that good customer service? Like, why not just make it into a volume thing where, okay, hey, welcome, here's a cheese, thanks, next, kind of thing?
Because I want to love what I do. And I think more than cheese, it's like, the community, the people that has become so much a part of the business. I don't know if I realized that was the shape it was going to take on. Like I know when we had this idea of cheese and bringing cheese culture to the territory and all this sort of like big ideas and stuff, I think the biggest and brightest part of what I do is engaging with the people that come through the door and getting to know them, and not just their favorite cheese and their name, but just that relationship building that's just really genuine and natural and really rewarding. So I think that's also where I have to be careful. Like I am not there every single day now, and there is sure wrestling with a little bit of guilt of that, like I did with not being there for my son too. That okay, I'm not at the shop today. Oh, I missed this couple, and I haven't seen these guys for a while. And Dave's really good about going, oh, so it's okay, man, and oh, you missed so and so. but at the same time, to have that energy for the people and have the other work out of the way that I can engage the way I want to at the shop, I have to have that time away to recharge and get the behind the scenes stuff done. And I think with bringing on a lot of our employees that we've had have been customers too, so I think they kind of get a sense of how things roll in the shop too, in the sense of how we approach people and stuff. I hope no one ever feels pressured when they come in there. That's the last thing I'd ever want. I always explain to people when they start, like, our philosophy is that acknowledge people. I'd much rather have somebody leave the shop empty-handed, but with the desire to come back again because it was a positive experience, than leave the shop with a bunch of stuff that they're like, stuff like I totally didn't want it. So I think we are definitely quite clear about that, but also just watch us.
Yeah.
Hang out with us and just see how we engage, and that's, just be yourself and be comfortable, and that's how it's going to flow. So.
So now we can open up to some audience questions, and then if you do have a question, just raise your hand, and then we'll get a mic brought over to you so we can hear it. But does anyone have any that want to start off? Anything comes to mind? Yeah.
I have a question. I'll just speak loudly. Did you know a lot about cheese before you got into it, or did you just love cheese and wanted to share your love of cheese?
I think it's more that, definitely a love of cheese. The knowledge was not as robust as I would have liked it, and I mean, it was great. Like I was saying, there's so much information to access. There's so many people that I was able to reach out to, and having the luxury of going on a trip to simply just go to a bunch of cheese shops and taste and write notes and kind of develop a bit more knowledge in that. But I mean, this is where it comes down to, I would have put off opening the shop indefinitely because it would be my inclination to just feel like I need to know everything before I even, open the doors. And I think there's so much learning and knowing that comes from actually just, I could read about that cheese, but I need to actually bring that cheese into my space. I need to know what that cheese feels like. I need to know the texture. I need to know how it slices, it smells, it tastes, all these different things that you're just not going to ever know unless you do the hands-on part of it. So no, by no means did I know when the idea was first born, did I know that much about cheese, only that I really, really liked it.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about the actual timeline between coming up with the idea, quitting your job, renting the space, and then moving to the new space.
Again, way faster than what I would have liked to
What was it?
And then I would have liked to have been in the new space a little sooner if I'd known how much of a difference it would make. I think the idea was November, probably late November. And then I basically booked 3 days off from my then government job in early February to research. And I'll admit, I did not do a business plan, I didn't do market analysis, I didn't do all those things that you should do, or that I would have had to do if I was looking for funding, because I created my little nest egg there. So yeah, I spent 3 days researching, reaching out to people, and at the end of those 3 days, one of those reaching out to people was reaching out about the space in Horwoods Mall, which was available, and then I think it was the next week I gave my notice. And then I realized that it was actually really becoming really real, and we signed the lease to take over for May 1st and start doing the renos and everything in there, and then we opened, you always think you're going to open it's June 1st, we're going to open June 1st, and I was like, wait, coming soon, let's just get rid of the date on there entirely, and then it was June 23rd that we opened the doors, so yeah, about half a year I guess, so. Yeah.
And then how long were you in that space before you went to the bigger space?
Gosh, almost 3.5 years, actually. It's weird because I feel like so much, it feels like so long ago that we were in that small space. We joke about it, Chef and I, just, were we ever even really in that space? Was that just a dream? But it feels like, so much more at home in the place that we're in. But it was November 2018, so not even a year and a half. Yeah.
Any other ones? Yeah.
What, have you ever brought in a product that just didn't sell?
Yes, I think in the beginning I was more nervous about taking those sort of risks. I remember one of our regular customers had this wheel of cheese that he was just like, oh, this would be great if you could bring it in. And I looked it up, I'm like, it's 8 kilos and I've never tried it. And now, I mean, like, I wouldn't hesitate to bring in, various wheels of cheese at that size. But yeah, definitely that's where sales baskets come in handy. Sometimes for like the dry good products, or a little percentage off stickers, or a lot of stuff that we just ate at home. We're like, when are we gonna eat the stuff that we really want to eat? But I really don't like food waste. And also with some things, if I just ordered too much of something and I saw it wasn't moving, then it's like still within its best before date and stuff like that, then there's like the food bank and things like that too, right? That it's like, I really don't like to see food waste. So we ate a lot of cheese at home in the early days, and there were, definite sale basket items, various things that were just getting shared in various ways. But yeah, not everything's a winner for sure. It's a bit of trial and error. And it was scary too, because taking those risks at that time, like there was no, the shop was surviving, and everything that it did make would just go right back into it. So it still felt so intimately connected to our livelihood, and so scary to take a big risk. So orders were generally very small. Just sending a case of something the first time and getting a chance to try it, and then go, oh, okay, yeah, we can get a few cases of that. Or the wheel, it would be like, can you send me a quarter? Do you sell it like the quarter wheel so we can try it, and things like that. But we also didn't have the customer base that we have now, so there was also that. Some products, who knows, might have been more successful if we were as busy as we are now, or if as many people knew about the business. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's hit and miss for sure. I always say, like, with things, like, it's got to be pretty, it's got to look nice, right? If it's packaged, it's got to be an attractive packaging that's going to appeal. But second, it's got to be a good product, right? If it doesn't look lovely or draw you in some way, you're probably not going to get it. And then certainly if it is lovely looking and everything, but it doesn't taste good, you're never going to get it again. So it's got to be that, like, the full, yeah, exactly. Looks pretty, tastes delicious.
Any other ones? Yeah, in the back there.
First of all, thank you for explaining your story to us, because on the outside it was quite seamless. People in streets were there, but moved next door and moving through, so there's a lot of anchors behind it, honestly. I know you say that, well, my understanding of what you're saying is the reason that you did it was your husband's encouragement, and you had a nest egg and you like cheese, but what would make you, what's this spark that would make you move forward on that idea? Because the community needs a lot. But people have great ideas, but they don't always take that step. There's no initiative, no drive, no force to go forward.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Like, what's the kind of the point of the little thing that pushed you to do it? Yeah.
That just made you, because you had a secure government job, right?
Yeah, and I miss aspects of that. I think big part of it was having a child, and wanting our little guy to know that I guess that it's okay to go after what you want, even if it doesn't mean it's guaranteed good, steady, solid income and paid holidays. But essentially, I wanted him to know that that it's okay to take risks and try to do what you really want to do. So I know that sounds a bit cliche and cheesy. I didn't, but it's true. And to be honest with you, I think with the cheese part, I mean, it was looking at like a gap that potentially we felt could be filled. But I did struggle a bit too, going like, oh, but I want to do something that's really meaningful and purposeful and just contributes, in a bigger scale to the community. And I don't know if it does to everybody on that side, but for me, I feel like there's so much meaning and purpose and just gratitude in what I do. Like it's brought me so much. I didn't want it to just feel like a retail transaction or anything like that, and it hasn't. Like it's really just about the side of the room. It's about all the people, it's the community, and that's been the biggest part of it. And I think honestly, with the cheese culture, part of what I see is people that come through the door, they're happy. They associate that with it's their time that they're going to relax, they're going to socialize, they're going to share, they're going to slow down, and those are beautiful things and things that we need to do more of in life. And so maybe I didn't see the whole scope of things, the incarnation of the business, but it's definitely shown me but I guess there was a lot of meaning in following that. But yeah, I hope that answers.
Any other ones? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious about, so if someone had an idea and they're in that place of like terror, what would you say to them?
That's a big question.
Yes. I mean, with my experience now, I mean, looking back, like, would I change anything? No, I'm so glad I did it, for sure. I'd probably say what that guy said to me too, that to not try is more a failure than to try and not succeed. So really, like, I think that was, at that point when you said that, I was like, oh, damn.
Oh my God.
Okay, you're so right. But I think, you just, like with me growing the business, I didn't want to have a regret about not giving it that opportunity to succeed, whether or not it would. And I don't take for granted that it is a staple business that's always going to be there. I still pour so much of myself into it because I don't take that for granted. I think you have to work hard to maintain that and to keep it alive. So, but yeah, you just don't want to have regrets. If there's something that you really, really believe in, then, I mean, I would say just go for it. And I mean, within reason and scale, of course, right? I mean, it's one of those things that obviously it's, I wouldn't have started with the size of the space, the shop that we have now, because that would have felt way too risky. So I think keeping those things in check and balance and everything as well. But and there'd be some wine and cheese involved in that conversation too. By the end of it, they'd be like, "Come in," because that's how wine and cheese impacts.
Any others?
Not so much a question, but an observation. When you're in your really small space, I loved how, even if you were closed, you'd come around the corner, instead of just seeing a sign saying closed, you'd see, shh, the cheese is sleeping, right? And it's like, there's that relationship that you're making with your customers. And it's like, it's okay, it's closed, because the cheese is sleeping. Right? It's like, and it's very cool, it's a nice touch.
It's funny because that sign was, sorry, I'm always bringing you into it, but when I was making up the sign, I think Chef was like, really? I was like, yeah, I feel like this is my license to be cheesy, like, I can totally be who I am now. And so it's awesome that you would say that, and there were so many people that would go by and they'd just go, and it just made me so happy. Even kids, like little kids going past, and they knew the sign was there, and they would do the little hush. And even some would be like, does cheese really sleep? So, and the sign has resurfaced, actually. We've been putting it on the gate lately, so I'm like, gotta bring back the sleeping cheese sign.
One of the ones, if anyone has any more, feel free to throw your hand up, but one of the ones that we had talked about too was salaries and paying yourself, and at what point you start to think about that, and I think that's something that entrepreneurs also grapple with, is at what point can you kind of start taking something for you to make it worthwhile, I guess, but what was that like for you, and when was that point?
Yes, I feel like initially, it was like all my savings, or savings went into it, and then anytime you would, anything would come in, it would just go right back into the business, reinvest, and I mean, it's kind of hard on morale after, 2+ years in there going, sorry, I'm not bringing any money home still, right? It just kind of, it's hard on morale. You feel too at that point that there is no money to bring home because it's constantly getting reinvested and eaten up, and you need to reorder it with cheese. That's the thing. It's not like there's the spring line that you bring out, and you've got that, and you're good for several months until the next season. It's just shipping every week and a half, 2 weeks to restock. So it would seem like, oh great, we had a busy weekend. Look at all this money. Oh no, right, that's for the cheese that's coming. Or it just always felt like a bit behind the 8 ball. But I think in a lot of ways, like I looking back, I should have tried to just carve out a little bit to feel like that I wasn't just volunteering, or it's like that I was contributing in some ways to the household, and feeling even if it wasn't necessarily success, but it would feel like it is if you're just getting this little paycheck once a month to count on or something. But I still look back and go, but where would it have come from? Like, I don't know. But now I'm happy to say it was a joke for a long time with employees that they were making way more than I was for a long time. I would divide all my hours and be like, cool, $3 an hour, we're getting somewhere. But no, I at this point in the business, and I think at this point in the business, I have to be having some sort of stable income for it to actually be sustainable. So it's nice to feel like it's contributing, contributing to the household again, and just yeah. But it takes a while to get there, and it's definitely I was cautious about how much and what that would look like. And there were definitely times it was like, oh, Christmas is coming back in June. Don't pay myself till January. I think that's just kind of the norm because there's so much financial output, inventory for Christmas and everything, and it's just like, okay, line of credit, okay, line of credit, use that up, okay, put it all in again, and just hope it comes back by the end of December. But yeah, it's a little more stable and consistent now.
As far as the logistics go with your food business, essentially, what is it like, and what are some of the things that you consider when you're placing those orders to be sure that you always have, stock and that you can put stuff on the shelves?
Yeah, and one of the things I guess was I thought it was always better to spend the money to avoid having a totally empty case or be short on things and maybe have to eat a little bit more cheese at the end of the week, oh goodness, than to have things look a bit desolate because I under-ordered. So I think, there was a lot of trial and error, and you don't have anything to base it on. Like going into our first Christmas, I had no previous December to know how much cheese we would need, so it was really, it took a while to develop a sense of knowing in a cycle with the business to make smarter ordering choices and everything. So I think it was just a lot of like, oh God, I ordered way too much, and okay, flash sale, or or I didn't order enough. Okay, Air North, let's get this on the next flight. And so yeah, it wasn't a perfect process from the get-go. It's it's really nice now, a few years in, you have a history to look back on and go, oh right, January. Yeah, you don't order as much in January as you do in December because it's January. But you just get into this mindset in December. It's like, oh God, gotta keep restocking, gotta do this. And then you kind of come off into January and realize you're mostly over-ordered, and yeah, just big community fondue pot, and put it all in there. But
we take a few more. I guess another one I'll ask then is what you're doing. Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, back.
Hi.
Was learning the back end of the business and all the side finance and that really unpleasant side finance.
Yeah, that's a
Oh
good
my,
question.
well, that is
Learning the back end, yeah.
totally.
Challenging as the front end. And second question, did you come from a business-minded family or did you have a business background personally?
I think what would have really been even more important than knowing a lot about cheese going into it was maybe knowing a bit more about bookkeeping and basic accounting. Because I think we talked about this when we met before, but like the kind of the 4 pillars of business, and like there's the admin side, the accounting, the bookkeeping, there's the advertising and promotion, there's the product and service that you're offering, and then there's the people management and part of it. And when meeting with business consultant and running this idea past them, they brought it to me to think about what are your strong pillars to stand on, because it's not often that there's 4 solid ones that one person has. And so definitely the admin side, like all that paperwork. I didn't, it's like so easy to romanticize. You're just going to be eating cheese and enjoying cheese all day. And it's like, oh my God, I spent so much time in front of a laptop and emailing, and it's just like, and also probably because in the beginning too, I wasn't as efficient, spreadsheets and figuring out how to do orders and all these different aspects to it, and like T4s and payroll, and I quickly outsourced to my sister-in-law and brought her in. I'm like, it's family business, come on. I'm like, I'll send you cheese. So that part definitely was a big learning curve for sure, and I mean, and that's maybe another thing I could have done a little earlier on, was just really not just reinvest in replacing cheese in the coolers, but invest in somebody who's very knowledgeable and efficient in those areas to come in and help me out with that. I mean, my sister-in-law was amazing, but she was also in Vancouver with 2 young kids, and there was only so much she could do from a distance. The business background, no, not a family of entrepreneurs, definitely not, but working for a lot of small businesses in my earlier retail gigs, I definitely feel like I had a couple fantastic mentors, but I don't know, I fully appreciated it at the time because I still kind of was stuck in that mindset of I'm going nowhere, I'm just working retail. And so a few weeks in to opening the shop, and pen to paper, and I had to write a letter to one of those, and I was like, I get it. I get it on a level that I never got it before. I'm like, thank you so much. I had no idea how many skills I had developed working at this one business and how much I would actually apply that to running my own business. And so it was that moment of realization that, okay, first of all, there's probably nothing you're doing in life, no job that you're doing that is useless, that's not providing you with something valuable that you're going to use at some point down the road. And so, yeah, really that was my family. My small business exposure was working with these little family businesses, and that one in particular.
Any more? I guess I can ask one. So you mentioned kind of having stuff and taking advantage of places like UConstruct to build some things and put some stuff in the shop. What are some other tools that you've accessed that you maybe hadn't thought about at first that have helped you, I think?
Oh my goodness, it probably took me a long time to access things. I think I was just really like so used to just trying to figure it all out on my own and everything. I mean, but that was a huge one, fully exploiting my husband there with all his carpentry skills and having, you know, this resource to be able to put that together. Because I think there was at one point where there was a bit of construction, like things laid out in our dining room, but it's not conducive to happy family life when there's this. I'm trying to think, I mean, it's just, in so many ways, it's just kind of been like a natural kind of organic evolution, like even just in partnering with other businesses, how that's come to be. Like I've pretty positive experience with just the business community in general in this town. I think I was very nervous about growing the business or promoting the business in a way that would develop growth or anything. I think it was just all very like, it just needs to happen small and organic and little baby steps. But I think just so many different businesses have approached us to work with us and everything. So there's that, and really quite an exchange in you know, like the cross promotion, but also just in having those resources of other people that are in it and get it and know the trials and tribulations and the joys and successes. And yeah, I'm probably like, I feel like this is where I should have like my list of all the wonderful things I've accessed.
I'd like to thank you.
Yeah.
Going forward, is there a point where you think that you'll be able to completely step back and let the business run on autopilot, or do you ever want to get to that point?
I don't think I ever want to get to that point. I definitely love the fact that like I take 1 day a week right now. We're open 5 days a week, and I feel like that's kind of perfect for us. Like, you know, potentially we could open up Mondays if we had more employees, but then there's always that fear of like, oh, but then somebody calls in sick and I gotta go in. And I like the 5 days a week. People have been really great about accepting that, and but no, I always want to be a part of it, definitely. I think it's like such it's such a big part of my life, and I find so much joy in being there. But again, I think just having enough fantastic employees that represent the business and enjoy being there, that I can step back now and again when I need to, and take my Wednesday at home, take a little vacation with my family. But no, I love, I feel very fortunate. I feel like pretty much every single day when I wake up, it's often even just that feeling of like butterflies in my stomach, and I'm like, what am I going to encounter today at my shop, you know? And I feel very grateful to enjoy what I do, you know, challenges and all that come with it. It's kind of keeps you on your toes and engages you. But yeah, and many nights I come home and I cry because I'm just blown away by this community and how supportive people are. So yeah, it's quite
Nice.
Yeah.
And I guess if there are no more, maybe we can wrap it up with the one question. I guess, what is the biggest lesson that you would try and impart on entrepreneurs in the room tonight who might be thinking about making the jump or might have that idea?
Well, I think just knowing you're not, again, coming back to knowing you don't have to be an expert to jump in there and do it. Like, obviously, you know, put some work into it and have an idea, but I think that was my biggest concern, was just not knowing enough going into it. But you learn so much when you do take that big leap, and making sure that you're really passionate about it too, because if you don't really have that buy-in and that excitement for what you do, then it's not going to be worth all the hard labor and work and everything. It's, you know,
$3 an hour.
Right? So yeah, I think those would be the two key things. You don't have to be an expert, but you better darn well love the idea of what you're going to be doing.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a really nice way to wrap it up. And I want to thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Laura Daly, everyone from
Oh,
Cultured Fine Cheese. If you haven't been to her shop, feel free to check out her shop, obviously, but there's some cheese in the back there you can still feel free to enjoy. And thank you all for coming, and then stay tuned. There will be one coming up soon, so stay tuned on Facebook and stuff like that to find out who comes next. Thank you.
And thank you for braving the cold. I totally thought nobody would come out of this tonight.
Nice job.
How are you? I'm good, how are you? Very well. Good.